Hey, what's up, guys? Michael here with Michael Reviews Everything. Obviously, just got home from watching the not just the season finale, but the series finale of one of my favorite shows of all time, Stranger Things. Yeah, it's been one of my favorites for about a decade, and I can tell you why. Well, I was born in 1987, so I was more of a 90s baby, but I love the 80s references, and I was still born in the 80s, so was I an 80s baby? Technically. So here we go. Now, obviously, this review is going to have some summary and it's going to have some major spoilers. So if you have not seen the final, the finale of the show, and you don't want it ruined for you, probably go look at something else for a couple days. But hey, it's out. It's also out on Netflix. But I had to see it in the movie theater. So here we go. Stranger Things season or series finale review. I'm so saying season finale. Runtime was about 2 hours and 8 minutes. I sat around waiting for an after credit scene that didn't show up. If you go to the movies, don't wait for it. And all right, here we go. So first off, like I said, I'm a big fan of Stranger Things. I love the story and how it plays out. I'm not a fan of certain parts of Stranger Things and certain elements and how we kind of got off the rails a little bit on season three, but we're back and we're focused, and I love what they did. An absolutely uh, great mix of adventure, horror, and just best friends. So I've been waiting for a long time for this, for the ending of it. Obviously, I wore this Hellfire Club shirt and my W Squawk hat that I made and walked in ready, got there early, and the theater was sold out across the city. So tickets, I got my Cinemark ticket for 20 bucks, but they came with a $20 voucher. And I took my wife, so we spent 40 bucks to get in, but there was $40 worth of snacks. Honestly, the line for the snacks was pretty long, and then just to figure out because you had to use it before the movie and you couldn't use the voucher any other day, it was kind of like, what do we do? I feel like it was Netflix's way to kind of get into the movie theaters and be like, hey, movie theaters, I know you hate us, you hate Netflix because we're kind of killing you sometimes, but we'll show up at your thing and we'll make people buy snacks. Essentially, I couldn't buy the ticket without the snack voucher, so it ended up working with marketing actually pretty well for everybody. So honestly, it was not a bad deal at all because it made the movie kind of free. So tons of Stranger Things themed ads before the showing. It got a little cheesy, but it was still pretty fun. So Netflix clearly wanted this to feel not like in a movie, not like a movie, but an event. And that's exactly, to be fair, that's exactly what it felt like. The theater was packed like I'd never seen before since Pokemon 2000 or Passion of the Christ when I was a kid when it came out. Lots of people cosplaying as their favorite characters just in one theater tonight, one night. Cinemark, Tinseltown in Colorado Springs, had 52 showings of the finale. I want you to understand that. They basically blocked out almost every other movie and did 52 showings on New Year's Eve, and they were all sold out. I bought tickets the moment they were available, and I sat in row H. If you don't know what row H is, I was all the way at the back. You know what was behind me? The guy with the projector. I know they're not doing this anymore. They're pushing a button. But the guy with the projector and maybe a cloud and maybe some birds. Like I might have got a bloody nose. I was in the back of a huge theater, 52 showings, completely sold out. Didn't even get to sit next to my wife. She was like in front of me. We were passing stacks. This was an event. Like I said, the garb, so many people wearing Hellfire Club shirts, so many girls dressed up, and all these different cosplays, and it was an event, not just a movie. Sold out. I love it. Now, this movie, just to nerd out a little bit, this movie cost about 9 million to make. At least that was the budget to make this movie, which was the finale, of course, for the series. $9 million budget, and they've already brought in from the count I did just a minute ago was 82.5 million. Now, obviously, there's some showings I believe tomorrow, and that might be it, just a couple days. But the invested 9 million, they made 82.5 million in ticket sales. That is huge. I don't know if that's record breaking, but it's pretty damn big. If you know if it's record breaking, if you know of a movie that has made more money on the opening night, please comment below because I'm very interested and I'm okay being wrong on that. But let's get right into the film itself. And of course, lots of spoilers. If you don't want it, better turn it off now. So the finale jumps straight into action, exactly where we left off last week, sitting on our couches in our living rooms, during Christmas night, and it immediately feels bigger. Immediately feels better. There's better lighting, there's better CGI. It feels more expensive. It didn't feel like Netflix TV. It felt cinematic, which was awesome to be able to experience that with Stranger Things. It felt like I was in a room full of Stranger Things fans, which I really was. 52 showings in Colorado Springs in one theater, sold out. There was a lot of fans, right? So what happens is the team heads straight into the upside down, ready for war against Planet X, also known as the Abyss, as it's closing in. Now that they have the 12 children, then the planet is starting to come down. And it's trying to come down through the ceiling of essentially the wormhole, so that eventually the bottom of Planet X and the bottom of Hawkins or Earth can collide, become one, and then it's just easier to just kind of open the floor, and then the floor, the ceiling, and the floor. It was weird how they did that. And then, of course, um, essentially, the Flayer, I'm gonna call him the Flayer, just in full power, can just go straight through. All right, straight through to Earth and just take over Earth. So we're gonna go through this real quick. So Planet X, the Abyss, is closing in. They arrive in what turns to be the homeworld of the Demogorgons, the Mind Flayer, the Demobats, the Vines, all of it. And here's the first red flag. Gotta say that I have some not positive stuff to say about this film. A lot of positive stuff. Still a fan, but there's nothing there. There's no monsters, no chaos, no resistance. They just show up and they just start walking towards this tree. Some people call it the Tesla Hydra, which it ended up not being, but it's an eerie desert planet. And I thought, okay, either this is brilliant restraint or something is very wrong, because you would think that Demogorgons coming from that planet would be there. The Demobats would be everywhere, right? This is their home planet. And who runs the show is the Mind Flayer. And they're not in the Upside Down. They're not on the Abyss. They just disappear and they're never mentioned. That was actually really annoying, because I would have loved to see. We had this long, long, long walk. It was almost like watching the Hobbits. And so we're just watching the Hobbits walk towards Mordor. And guess what? They are walking and walking, and there's nobody fighting them. I would have loved to see them have to fight someone. I mean, they have all of this armor. And for some reason, Dustin's wearing like a ghillie suit, like he's going duck hunting or something. And none of this really makes any sense. Just guns. The guns are the only thing that makes sense at the end of the day. And you'll know why in a second. So it reveals that those giant fingers that were sticking out of the desert, they're spider legs, like many people did guess. And that's exactly what it was. It's the real Mind Flayer, the physical Mind Flayer. So that part worked. I'll give them that. We get flashbacks of Vecna's origin story, young Henry discovering a glowing rock that releases dark particles into a gunshot wound in his hand, which is where his powers come from, which is why he doesn't want to go in the cave. And he's saying Vecna, or Max was saying Vecna didn't want him to remember, but that's not really true. And the Mind Flayer originally exists basically as a shapeless dark cloud that talks to people. I don't know how the shapeless dark cloud got into a glowing rock. That made no sense. That wasn't explained, other than a guy stole some tech from somebody else, and poof, there you go. And then somehow we do something about it. But the Mind Flayer originally exists like as nothing, but it's calling out to young Henry Creel after he gets the particles in his hand, and it chooses him. It's like the chosen one, but for evil, right? So the lore was generally interesting, and a lot of critics have praised this part for finally answering long-standing questions, but answers only matter if they pay off, if they really make sense, and waiting and waiting and waiting. I mean, this is a lot of episodes, right? And that's where the finale starts to kind of unravel for me. Will enters Vecna's mind and never actually confronts him face to face. We have been waiting, because this is a huge miss for Netflix and for the brothers, the directors. Will was Vecna's first victim, right? Their connection is fundamental to the entire series. It's so intimate, and the fact that Will is just projecting "I'm not afraid of you anymore" mentally was pretty cool, but it felt weak because he didn't say it to him face to face. Every time Will was up against Vecna face to face, he was very weak. He was crying. He was stuttering over his words. And then it's like, come on, dude, do something, right? Do something. You have these really cool powers. And critics and fans alike have pointed this out, that it felt really weak. And it's like the moment was earned. It was earned for Will and for the audience for Will to see Vecna and really kick his butt. And the show completely dodged it. So, not happy about that. The Mind Flayer's true form is revealed as a massive alien spider with little wiggle antennas on its head, and its face opens up this way, a little bit kind of like a crab. It's from another dimension, feeds on trauma and fear, especially children. And yeah, the Pennywise vibes are strong, maybe too strong. Now, remember that Stranger Things is really a culmination, a melting pot of so many different shows. I mean, one guy's basically the Terminator, the bad guy at the end of season three. They have so many different 80s shows that they're smushing together, and that's really cool. But don't do too much of one thing. The Mind Flayer is I mean, Pennywise is this cosmic spider that has mind control powers and feeds off of children's energy. And it was too much the same for me to feel like, yeah, this is the original creature. It really did not feel like an original creature. It did feel like a D&D boss, and that was cool, but not like really its own thing. So the fight itself kind of mirrors also the mall battle in season three, where the meat flayer, where the mind flayer melts rats and humans to come and be in a fleshly form. I mean, lots of just fireworks being thrown, chaos from all sides. They get the high ground of the mall and they start throwing the fireworks at it. But again, it's mostly them just buying time while the real heroes do the real damage. And of course, in the film, they just get on the cliff. It never says how they get on top of these like cliffs. Like, it looks like it would take a day or 2 to get on top of these cliffs, like, "We'll just go up there," and then the next minute, they're like they're in the cliffs. That made no sense at all because, Nancy went in first, and it was chasing Nancy, and all of a sudden, the kids are up on these cliffs, like, "Well, how did you jump up there? I don't understand. How are you even breathing the air on this planet? Is the gravity the same? Is there oxygen?" Nobody cared to ask. They were just there doing their thing. Alright. So they get up there and they just start shooting and using flamethrowers, all this really cool stuff, all these awesome things that kids want to play with, and grenades, and all of it's very, very, very fun. There's Lucas is shooting balloons of like gasoline, and then Mike gets a flare gun and he's shooting and lighting on fire. Now, what was really interesting that I think some people may have missed is not just the interior, but the exterior. So the interior of the creature is cave-like interior, where Vecna is fully connected. He's hanging beneath a pulsating heart, drawing power from 12 children, 12 pillars, expanding the hive mind. I have some questions about that. But like the inside of the creature is very dry. But when he opens his mouth, there's drool going everywhere. So how do you produce fluids like drool, but around your own heart, it's completely dry and has this cave? So the buildup of the creature didn't make a lot of sense. If he truly is a dry desert creature, don't put drool everywhere. That shouldn't work. There shouldn't be any liquid in it if it's just this dry creature. That's just my take on character design. But the outside of this spider creature was covered in these little pus bulb things. And it was kind of like there are some frogs that have their babies like on their back. And so obviously its plan was to go to Earth and release all of its babies. And so Dustin and Steve start like poking them and they get covered in the gross juice of it. That was really gross. Maybe a horrible idea to have these little spider babies all over them. We don't actually get to see the spider babies much. We get to hear them kind of dribble a little bit while they're in the sacks, but that was obviously the purpose. So now we know that the Mind Flayer was a cloud that somehow got energy to turn into a dead spider that turned into a living spider that made a bunch of babies, and it was going to spread those babies all over Earth, apparently to take over it, and maybe, unfortunately, destroy it like it did the Abyss. I don't know. Maybe I don't know why he just didn't create Demogorgons and feed off of them and feed off of their energy and use young Demogorgons. That didn't make any sense. But here are my questions. So why 12 kids? Just because it matches up with a clock? Okay. Why not just use the Demogorgons to power your spider ship? Where again are all the Demogorgons on this entire planet, this entire episode? That's where they're from, but we don't see any. They're not a threat. That makes no sense. There's not even any Demogorgons in the entire film, in the entire episode. It's an episode, but it's a film. There's not Demogorgons, Demobats, Demodogs, Demo tadpoles, none of them in the entire finale. They're such a big deal from the beginning of the show, and then we see none of them. Even even in the fifth, even in the fifth season, we see the Demogorgons are powerful, more powerful than ever, and the Demodogs are back. So they exist. They're somewhere. What happened? Did we kill them all in the laundromat? It's not explained. So here's another problem. and there's more lore as they every time they fix a piece of lore, they kind of messed up like five more. So overall, the series ran a little over 45 hours. Imagine if you watched a show about a big bad guy for 45 hours, right? And Vecna and the Mind Flayer are one, which is explained. Like Vecna, as Henry could have got away, but he chose not to. He has this beautiful line in the movie where he's like, I needed it, it needed me. We are one. All right, so that was pretty cool because they are one, like he's number one, but also he calls it, which also made me think of Pennywise, and I thought it was really cheesy, but it was an awesome climax, right? So the Mind Flayer and Vecna in full power, all juiced up by 12 kids, are killed in about 20 minutes. Duffy Brothers, this pissed us off. You made us wait for 40, you made us watch 45 hours 45 hours of Stranger Things to give us a 20-minute battle in the first half of the film. And I'm like, looking at my watch, and I'm like, we still have an hour, 15 minutes in the show, in the movie. What? And they thought, well, something else is going to happen. The only thing that really happens is that the military grabs them for like 30 seconds. Like, what is going on? 45 hours for a 20-minute. They were so weak. The spider creature was so weak. I mean, they're on their home planet. They're fully powered, like I said, fully connected, capable of moving a planet halfway through a wormhole. And all we get is a giant spider fumbling around, missing every one of its targets. This big bad alien with mental powers is an idiot. It's just a giant sand crab that just walks around and then gets stuck. Oh, I can't eat into this cave. What? Where was the power? Where was the scare? Where was the nothing? Once it became its final physical form, it was useless. It was dumb. And Vecna was so dumb and weak in this final fight. It just pissed me off, especially being fully powered on that planet, the hive mind planet. Get some Demodog help if you're going to be a horrible villain. So, multiple reviewers called this visually impressive but emotionally flat, which I totally agree with. And it looks big, but it feels small. If that makes sense. The movie looks big, but it feels small. There weren't enough risks taken. You know, the exotic energy orb again it's blown up, collapsing in the wormhole, and supposedly destroying the Upside Down and Planet X, but it doesn't track. If Planet X collapses because the wormhole is destroyed and the fleshly walls are destroyed, then Earth should too, but it doesn't. So somehow we destroyed another planet and the wormhole without touching Earth. Nobody even got an earthquake. That was it. The military, they're a threat for like 5 minutes, then they just vanish. No resolution, no consequence. No, I guess we'll come back later. We're watching you. None of that. Steve doesn't die. Callie does. But in the last few episodes, it kind of made us hate her anyways and not trust her at least. 11 dies, but maybe not. Possibly an illusion. That's honestly just really lazy writing because they didn't want to sacrifice any of the main characters. They didn't want a sad and depressing finale. I get it. But to have 11 sacrifice herself, knowing that she's a freak of nature, knowing that she's essentially Henry's daughter genetically. All of the numbers were Henry's kids because his blood was injected into the pregnant women, which is how they made all the powered up kids in the first place. Knowing that she could carry on pretty evil genes, she's like, I gotta die. What about Will? Nobody mentions maybe Will should die. Nobody mentions why doesn't the military just take Will and drain his blood to make new numbers? Does he still have powers after the Upside Down and after the Abyss was destroyed and Vecna and the Flare was destroyed? This isn't explained. I did appreciate but yeah, it's just it feels intentionally vague instead of emotionally earned, and I didn't like that. I did appreciate the epilogue, the rooftop scenes, the Breakfast Club energy of the older kids, and the "Where are they now?" moments worked really, really well. They're warm, they're earnest, they're emotional, they're heart touching. There was lots of crying in the movie theater, lots of interaction, and but there's also we have to highlight the imbalance, right? So is 11 alive? We got kind of a vision of her, climbing a mountain somewhere in Ireland or Switzerland. I don't really know where she was. Looking at, go to a small town, maybe to sacrifice her relationship with her friends to save them, kind of a Spider-Man kind of thing, in the No Coming Home, No Coming Home. Anyways, why didn't Eddie come back? We would have loved to see Eddie come back. Everybody wanted Eddie to come back, and he didn't. Why didn't Will fight Vecna in person and finally get that earned moment like we really, really wanted? Why do we spend 45 hours building to two final bosses connected just to defeat them in 20 minutes pretty crappily? And here's the big one. If Will has similar powers, like I said, why didn't the government ever just capture him and create more superhumans? Why is he totally safe in his town and the government left? And where are the Russians? Where the heck did the Russians go? They were such a pinnacle part of the entire show. And where did entire storylines just go? That were building in certain directions and they just kind of poofed. And is this where we land? This is it. Stranger Things, a show that I love, but it's really messy. The first two seasons were slow but grounded. Season 3 was borderline non-canon chaos because it was just insane having a Russian military base under a mall. And then have 11 lose her powers for 10 minutes. That was really weird. Season 4 and 5 build back slowly, but completely rush the ending. So critics are split, fans are divided. I'm split. I'm divided. Some call it a near perfect emotional goodbye. Others feel it collapses under its own ambition, and I have to side with that. I guess I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm still a huge fan, but this finale, it wanted to be everything. It wanted to be epic, intimate, nostalgic, devastating. Instead, it landed on good, not great. There was just wasn't enough risk. It was too emotionally safe. And for a show that changed television, it feels like a missed opportunity. Um, and that's my take. So comment, let me know what you think. This was a long review. We're over 20 minutes. I wanted this to be 7 minutes, but there's so much to impact because, like I said, we have 45 hours of this entire series. So I'm not just reviewing the finale, I'm kind of summarizing the entire show. So I hope that makes sense. But thanks for watching, and let's finally lay Stranger Things to rest. I certainly will miss it. I will miss the garb. I wish they did better in the finale, but they didn't, and that's okay. We're gonna go ahead and lay it to rest. If they try to do a spin-off, I'm gonna be pissed because just leave it. Just leave Stranger Things the way it is, and let's just move on. Still a fan, still love it. All right, guys. Hellfire Club. Catch you later.